Con had two skills. One was painting and the other was riding a bicycle. And the evidence that I've examined indicates really kind of in a negative way that he had no business sense, and you get this sense the guy was kind of a dreamer. And he read about this Loop-the-Loop act that had been on a circus in 1902 that actually was out of here in Columbus named the Four Paw Cells Circus. And he wrote the man that developed the act, who was named Arthur Prescott, about getting a job with it. And Prescott had developed this in the early fall of 1901 and had actually opened a school for Loop-the-Loop riders. And they were all called Diavolo, which of course is Italian for devil. And they would all wear this same kind of suit with these little devil horns on them. Well, when he started this, there were a number of accidents, and the first two guys that did it got injured so severely that they never came back to it. But the third guy that they had, whose name was Robert Vandervoort, was able to do it successfully and got the job with the Four Paw Cells Circus. Baker kind of hemmed and hawed about going, but finally about November, he goes to Fairview, New Jersey, where Prescott had set up a school for Diavolos, and there were about 10 people there. Baker trained there, and the first time he did it, he broke his wrist and a couple of ribs, but he really persisted and seemed to really want to do this, and eventually was able to get it. The thing that's always interesting to me about this is that all of these guys had to do it a first time. This shows him on the Ferrari Brothers Carnival in 1903 or 1904. And if you think about this, I mean, it really is scary, and it really was a very, very dangerous act. And you're going down about a 60, 80-foot incline, and you're going through a loop that the apex of which is about 25 feet high in the air. And you're going as much as perhaps 60 miles an hour going down the incline, and then you're doing about 35 when you're at the top of the loop. And you can see how it starts out that the loop, the device, gets wider as it goes around and then is very wide when it's in the loop portion of it. What the rider in a Loop-the-Loop act had to do, there was a black line, and the rider would just keep his head down and just look at that line and just trust the process. Here's one of him in his devil outfit that was taken when he was on the Frank Phillis Circus in 1905 in South Africa, and you can see he just radiates confidence in that photograph. Here's another picture of it that was taken on the Ferrari show, and you can see on the right the bicycle. It didn't have pedals, it just had slots for him to put his feet into. And here's another nice photograph of him inside Frank Phillis's tent in 1905. The Loop-the-Loop acts were very much copied, and there were just slight variations that were done to it to get around the patents that Prescott held. This one, for example, shows a dog running the Loop-the-Loop. And this photograph is the Loop-the-Loop at Coney Island that Prescott worked on that was the inspiration for the bicycle Loop-the-Loop. The letters that were from and to him were by far the most important and interesting thing to me. Today I found a postcard from Robert Vandervoort, who was the man that was the rider on Four Paw Cells in 1902, and then he writes Baker in September of '03, and he says, "Glad to hear you're making good rides. Look out for heavy dews and frost on loop." And so there's a lot of technical pointers that these guys would share with each other. What I learned about Con Baker, the person, from this is that he was a very articulate, intelligent man who wrote well. He was a positive person. You don't see a lot of beefing, but he would also stand up for himself. He was involved in starting a union of Loop-the-Loop riders, a pretty small union. There were like 9 people in it. He seems to have been a quiet guy, as much as you can determine that somebody was a quiet guy from reading his letters. In interviews that he gave, there's not any bombast to it, and he really plays it down. I mean, he understood that he was good at what he was doing, and he also knew that he had a great advantage from having the experience with bicycle racing before then. He's a local hero, there's no question about it. He's a guy that made fame in this country on bicycles and then on the Loop-the-Loop, and then he traveled the world. He is unquestionably one of the bigger personalities and more exciting people that ever came out of this town.